Blood trickled down Sam Reeves's arm as he extended his hand toward the advancing chimpanzee. Its teeth were bared, eyes locked on his, a primal fury, unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. Behind it, another chimp approached with the same menacing posture, both moving with purpose down the cracked asphalt of what had once been a quiet suburb. In the distance, Officer Martinez's body lay motionless beside his overturned patrol car. His partner, Officer Dawson, sprawled 20 feet away, neither moving. The radio crackled with unanswered calls for backup. "Easy," Sam whispered, knowing it was futile. "Easy." The lead chimp lunged. 3 weeks earlier, the nightmare had started again. Dr. Samson Reeves woke with a jolt, sheets damp with sweat, the phantom screams of animals still echoing in his mind. 5 years had passed since the Westlake incident, a private zoo whose owner had abandoned 50 exotic animals when bankruptcy loomed. Sam had led the rescue operation, but arrived too late for many. The memory of those cages still haunted him. He checked his phone. 5:17 a.m. His alarm would sound in 13 minutes anyway. Might as well start the day. By 8:30, he was sitting in County Commissioner Walsh's office, a manila folder in his lap. "I appreciate your concern, Dr. Reeves," Walsh said without looking up from his computer. "But Meadowbrook has all the necessary approvals. Federal, state, local, everything's in order." "I should have been consulted," Sam replied, trying to keep the frustration from his voice. "It's literally in my job description, county wildlife veterinarian with final oversight on all exotic animal facilities." Walsh finally looked at him, annoyance evident. "The approval process began before your appointment. It was finalized after. You know that." The commissioner sighed. "What exactly do you want, Dr. Reeves?" "I want to inspect the facility. Today." "That's not how this works. There are protocols, scheduling procedures." Sam slid a paper across the desk. "County Ordinance 15.7 grants me emergency inspection authority if there's reasonable suspicion of animal welfare violations. 17 noise complaints in 3 months qualifies." Walsh's lips thinned to a hard line. "You're making enemies you don't need to make." "I'm doing my job." An hour later, Sam was driving to Meadowbrook, the facility's sleek brochure on the passenger seat featuring smiling scientists and pristine laboratory settings. As the county's leading wildlife veterinarian with specialization in primate behavior, he should have been consulted before the facility was approved for construction. Not after it was fully operational with 36 chimpanzees already in residence. But that's how things worked in New Haven County. Money first, questions later. "The facility meets all federal requirements," Director Phillips said, leading Sam through the sterile hallways. His voice held the practiced confidence of someone used to deflecting criticism. "State-of-the-art containment, environmental enrichment, round-the-clock monitoring. And yet the county's received 17 noise complaints in 3 months," Sam replied, flipping through the file he'd been given that morning, plus reports of animals displaying unusual aggression. Phillips waved dismissively. "Neighbors who never wanted us here in the first place. As for the aggression, these animals are part of a study on cognitive enhancement. Some behavioral changes are expected." Sam stopped walking. "Cognitive enhancement? That wasn't in the paperwork." "Proprietary research," Phillips replied with a tight smile. "But I assure you, completely humane. We're developing treatments for Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive decline, noble pursuits." They reached an observation room overlooking a large indoor habitat. Below, several chimps moved about the space climbing structures, manipulating puzzles, interacting with each other. At first glance, everything seemed normal, but Sam's trained eye caught the abnormalities immediately. The jerky movements, the excessive grooming, the way they avoided eye contact with each other. "How long has Subject 17 been pulling out his hair?" Sam asked, pointing to a male chimp in the corner. Phillips hesitated. "We're addressing some anxiety issues." "And that one?" Sam pointed to another male pacing a perfect rectangle. "How long has he been displaying that repetitive pattern?" "Dr. Reeves, I understand your concerns, but these animals are receiving the best possible care. The behaviors you're noting are being closely monitored. I need to see their medical records, Sam said. All of them. That would require special clearance from our research board, Phillips replied smoothly. But I can prepare a summary report for you by next week. As they continued the tour, Sam noticed the security-heavy steel doors, keycard access at every junction, armed guards stationed at main entryways, excessive for a standard research facility. One last thing, Sam said as they concluded. I'd like to meet Dr. Chen. She's listed as the principal investigator. Philip's smile never wavered. Dr. Chen is no longer with the facility. Creative differences, you understand. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a conference call in 5 minutes. Sam left with more questions than answers, and an uneasy feeling that wouldn't subside. In the parking lot, he spotted a young woman in a lab coat hurrying to her car. Excuse me, he called out. I'm Dr. Reeves, County Wildlife Veterinarian. Could I ask you a few questions about the facility? She glanced nervously at the building before responding. I'm just an assistant. I don't know anything important. I'm concerned about the animal's welfare. Any information would help. After a moment's hesitation, she lowered her voice. Meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 7 a.m. I finished the night shift at 6:30. She hurried into her car before he could respond. Sam didn't sleep that night. Something was very wrong at Meadowbrook, and years of experience had taught him that when it came to animal welfare, bureaucracy moved too slowly to prevent suffering. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Don't trust Phillips. The chimps aren't the only experiment. When he tried to call back, the number was disconnected. At Riverside Cafe, the young woman, Eliza Park, looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes as she clutched her coffee mug. I wasn't supposed to see it, she whispered. I was just delivering samples to the restricted lab, and the door was ajar. See what? They're not developing treatments for Alzheimer's. That's just the cover story for investors and regulators. Her hands trembled slightly. They're trying to enhance intelligence significantly. Military funding. Black budget stuff. Sam frowned. That doesn't make sense. There are easier research models than chimps for cognitive drug trials. It's not just drugs. It's a combination neural implants, genetic modification, and a compound they call NX5. And it's working. She pulled out her phone, glanced around nervously, then showed him a video. On screen, a chimp sat at a computer, solving complex pattern recognition problems at a speed Sam had never witnessed before. Another clip showed a different chimp assembling a puzzle box that would challenge most humans. In the final clip, Sam recognized Echo, the female, with a white chest patch. She was using sign language, but the sophistication of her communication was beyond anything Sam had seen. Complete sentences, abstract concepts, even what appeared to be metaphors. My God, Sam whispered. How long has this been going on? Project started 18 months ago. The cognitive enhancements really accelerated in the last 3. But there's more. She hesitated. They're showing signs of self-awareness beyond normal chimp levels. Echo asked why they were being kept in cages. She used the signs for prison and not fair. She understands the concept of injustice, Sam said, his blood running cold. This is from 2 weeks ago, Eliza continued. But there are side effects they're hiding. Increased aggression, paranoia, unpredictable behavior. 3 handlers have been injured. They're increasing the dosages despite the warning signs. Why are you telling me this? Why not report it officially? I tried. Called the USDA anonymously. Next day, the person who took my call was fired for unrelated reasons. These people have connections. She leaned forward. There's more. Last week, Subject 23 figured out how to open his enclosure. They covered it up, but he almost made it to the outer doors before they sedated him. They're getting smarter, Dr. Reeves. And they're angry. Over the next 2 days, Sam gathered what evidence he could. He filed an official report recommending immediate inspection of Meadowbrook, citing suspected ethical violations. He contacted former colleagues at the state university for backup. He even reached out to a journalist friend who specialized in corporate malfeasance. But Meadowbrook had powerful friends. His report was shelved pending further review. The university colleagues were suddenly unavailable. His journalist friend called to apologetically explain that her editor had killed the story after a call from their parent company's legal team. Then Eliza stopped answering his calls. When he drove past her apartment building, a "For Rent" sign hung in her window. The cafe where she worked had no record of her resignation. She simply hadn't shown up for her shift 3 days ago. That night, Sam broke into Meadowbrook. Years of wildlife fieldwork had taught him skills that served him well now: how to move silently, how to remain patient, how to observe without being observed. He slipped through a service entrance during a shift change, using the key card he'd secretly scanned from Phillips during their handshake. The facility was different at night, darker, more ominous. The habitats were quiet, most chimps sleeping, but not all. As Sam crept through the observation areas, he noticed several still awake, watching him with unsettling awareness. In the restricted lab, he found what he was looking for: research logs, data files, video recordings. He downloaded everything he could onto a thumb drive, photographed documents, recorded video of his own. The truth was worse than Eliza had suggested. The chimps weren't just being made smarter, they were being weaponized. Enhanced aggression, reduced fear response, heightened territorialism. And they were planning to breed them. A noise in the hallway sent him hiding in a supply closet. Through the crack in the door, he watched as Phillips and 2 men in military uniforms strode past. "The general is impressed with the latest results," one uniform was saying, "particularly the pack coordination tests." "We're ahead of schedule," Phillips replied proudly. 6 more months, and we'll have a prototype unit ready for field assessment." "And the containment concerns?" "Manageable. The enhanced subjects are still animals. Predictable. Controllable." Their voices faded as they turned a corner. Sam waited 5 more minutes before slipping out. He was photographing cage modification plans when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed as a computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Section C. All personnel implement containment protocol." Sam ran, but took a wrong turn in the unfamiliar layout. He found himself in a long corridor he hadn't seen before, lined with individual enclosures. Each held a chimp, most now awake and agitated by the alarm. As he passed, they tracked his movement with unnerving focus. At the end of the hall stood an armed guard, raising his radio. "Stop right there." Sam froze, mind racing for an explanation that wouldn't get him arrested. Then the lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in seconds later, but it was enough somehow. The power interruption had triggered the electronic locks on the enclosures. Doors slid open along the corridor. The guard's eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. He reached for his sidearm, but never got the chance to draw it. The chimps were on him in an instant, coordinated, purposeful, savage. Sam ran the opposite direction, pursued by sounds he would never forget. He made it to the lobby, just as the first emergency vehicles arrived. Outside, police established a perimeter as facility staff in various states of panic tried to explain what was happening. "How many got out?" a police officer demanded of a trembling technician. "I don't know, maybe all of them." 36, but they're not normal, you don't understand." "Sir," another officer approached Sam, "you need to clear the area." "I'm Dr. Sampson Reeves, County Wildlife Veterinarian," Sam said, flashing his ID. "Those chimps have been experimentally modified. They're extremely dangerous and far more intelligent than you're expecting." The officer, a young woman with Martinez on her nameplate, gave him a skeptical look. "Sir, we have animal control on the way." "They won't be equipped for this," Sam insisted. "You need tranquilizer rifles, multiple units, and even then." A scream from inside the building cut him off, then another, then silence. Officer Martinez grabbed her radio. "This is Unit 12 requesting immediate backup at Meadowbrook Research. We have a—" She trailed off as the facility's front doors opened and 3 chimps emerged, moving with deliberate purpose. Behind them, more shadowy figures appeared. "Situation," she finished quietly. By dawn, New Haven County was in chaos. 6 staff members from Meadowbrook hadn't made it out. 3 police officers, including Martinez's partner Dawson, were dead. The chimps had scattered in organized groups of 3 and 4, attacking isolated houses, overturning vehicles, evading capture with uncanny strategy. Officer Jenkins had died trying to rescue a family trapped in their home when 3 chimps ambushed him from the roof. Officer Dawson had been found in the police cruiser, his service weapon unfired, throat torn out with surgical precision. The chimps weren't just killing, they were learning which humans posed the greatest threat and eliminating them first. The National Guard had been called in. News helicopters circled overhead. Social media exploded with videos of the attacks, each more horrifying than the last. Sam had spent the night with the emergency response team, trying to make them understand what they were dealing with. These weren't ordinary escaped animals acting on instinct. They were calculating, adapting, using the environment against their pursuers. "We found this at the facility," the FBI agent in charge thrust a tablet at Sam. On screen was a map of the county, with key infrastructure marked: power stations, water treatment, communications towers. They had these maps on display in the habitats. Environmental enrichment, they called it. They were teaching them, Sam realized, strategic targets. The question is, did they learn? They had. By midday, power was out in half the county. 2 cell towers were down. And the chimps had begun using tools, not just rocks and sticks, but items they'd collected from houses they'd raided. One group had been spotted carrying kitchen knives. Another had looted a sporting goods store. Sam found himself in an uneasy alliance with Officer Martinez, one of the few who took his warning seriously. They tracked a group of 4 chimps to a suburban neighborhood that had been evacuated. The streets were eerily quiet as they moved cautiously from house to house. "I still don't understand how they got out," Martinez whispered as they checked another empty home. "I think I do," Sam replied, the theory that had been forming all day finally solidifying. They planned it. They waited for someone like mean inspection, a new face, a disruption to routine. I was the distraction. "You're saying they wanted to escape?" "No." Sam's voice was grim. "I'm saying they wanted to hunt." A noise from the street drew them to the window. 3 chimps moved into view, but something was wrong with their gait, their posture. As they drew closer, Sam realized with horror what he was seeing. The chimps were walking upright, deliberately mimicking human posture, and they were wearing clothes shirts and jackets taken from homes, crudely draped over their bodies. "They're adapting," Sam whispered. "Learning." Martinez reached for her radio, but Sam stopped her. "They recognize the uniforms, the equipment. They know you're police." Too late, they heard movement behind them. They turned to find a chimp watching from the doorway, head tilted in an unsettlingly human expression of curiosity. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the chimp called out a sound that wasn't quite chimp, wasn't quite human. Outside, the others answered. "Run," Sam said. They barely made it to Martinez's patrol car. As they sped away, chimps pursued on all fours, astonishingly fast. One leapt onto the trunk, pounding at the rear window until it began to crack. Martinez swerved sharply, dislodging it. "We need to warn people," Sam gasped. "Not just about the aggression, about what they can do, how they think." "Command post is at the high school," Martinez replied, eyes fixed on the road. 2 miles ahead. They never made it. Rounding a curve, they found the road blocked by an overturned delivery truck. Martinez braked hard, trying to turn around, but it was a trap. Chimps descended from trees on both sides of the road. One hurled a heavy rock that shattered the windshield. The patrol car veered off the road, hitting a telephone pole. Sam's world went blank momentarily, returning with the coppery taste of blood in his mouth. Beside him, Martinez was unconscious, a gash on her forehead. Outside, chimps approached cautiously, circling the damaged vehicle. Sam tried his door jammed. Martinez's window was halfway down from when she'd been using the radio. With shaking hands, he reached across her for her sidearm. He recognized one of the approaching chimps' echo, the female with the white chest patch. She moved differently from the others, more deliberately, more human-like. As she drew closer, their eyes met through the cracked windshield. For a moment, Sam thought he saw recognition there, perhaps even hesitation. He raised his hand in the signing gesture for friend that he'd used with primates before. Echo tilted her head, watching him. Then she signed back a gesture Sam had never taught her, but its meaning was clear. Enemy. He wasn't fast enough. A powerful arm reached through the window gap, grabbing Martinez by the hair and yanking her partially through the window. Sam heard the sickening crack as her neck broke. Then they were at his door, tearing at the frame with inhuman strength until metal groaned and gave way. Sam raised the gun, firing wildly. One chimp fell back, but others surged forward. He ran. Somewhere in the distance, he heard sirens, gunfire, screams. The road ahead was empty, winding between overgrown properties. His lungs burned as he pushed himself harder than he'd ever run before. When he glanced back, he saw them two chimps in pursuit, running on two legs now, a grotesque parody of humanity, their faces contorted in what looked horribly like satisfaction. Blood trickled down Sam's arm from a cut sustained in the crash. His breath came in ragged gasps as he extended his hand toward the advancing chimpanzee, a futile gesture of peace. "Easy," Sam whispered, knowing it was futile. "Easy." The lead chimp lunged. Pain exploded in his arm as powerful jaws clamped down. He screamed, firing the gun again. The chimp released him, staggering back, but its companion leapt forward. Sam's last thought, as teeth found his throat, was of Eliza's warning. "They're getting smarter, and they're angry." 3 days later, what remained of the New Haven Emergency Response Team located and destroyed the last of the escaped chimps. The official death toll stood at 27. Meadowbrook Research Facility was permanently closed, its leadership facing criminal charges. But in the chaos of those 3 days, no one noticed that 4 chimps were never accounted for. And deep in the woods beyond New Haven County, those 4 gathered silently around a stolen tablet. On screen was a map with new targets marked. They were learning, they were adapting, and they were patient. 1 year later, deep in a government research facility, much like Meadowbrook once was, a scientist approached her superior with concern etched on her face. "Sir, we've analyzed the genetic samples from the New Haven incident, and the modifications weren't just cognitive. There were reproductive enhancements as well." "Meaning what exactly?" She placed a tablet on his desk. On screen was satellite imagery of the forest region north of New Haven County, with heat signature clusters highlighted. "Meaning, sir," she said quietly, "they're breeding." Her superior studied the images with growing alarm. "How many?" "Based on thermal imaging and limited ground reconnaissance, at least 60, maybe more." "And their cognitive abilities?" "We found rudimentary structures in the forest, tools, primitive weapons." She hesitated before continuing. "And we found this." She pulled up a new Imagicrude drawing scratched into tree bark, a simplistic but recognizable map of the nearest human settlement, with X marks over critical infrastructure points. "They're planning," she whispered, "and they remember what we did to them." In the forest, shown on screen, beneath the dense canopy where satellites couldn't penetrate, hundreds of eyes watched the night sky, intelligent, aware, and waiting for the perfect moment to continue what their predecessors had begun. A large female, with a white patch on her chest, stood at the center of the gathering, her young clinging to her side. Echo had survived, adapted, and now led. She remembered the human faces, the labs, the cages. She taught the others what she knew of human weaknesses. And in the growing shadow of the forest, a new kind of society was taking form, driven by a single, powerful concept Echo had learned from her captors: justice. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video.